And I don't think gangster rap promotes violence at all. I think it's the person, you know.
30 years ago, the godfather of gangsta rap, Eazy-E, died under circumstances that have never been fully explained. The official story, AIDS. But was that really the truth? And then, after 3 decades, Pandora's box of secrets was finally opened. Inside were not dusty memorabilia, but an earthquake FBI file stamped confidential letters about secret deals and mysterious White House meetings that made anyone who heard about them shudder. All of it pointed to one truth: Eazy-E was more than just a rapper from Compton. He was an FBI target, a mafia pawn, a political victim, and maybe a man sentenced to death in the shadows. Now the secret is out. And as the truth rises from the dust of time, the whole hip-hop world falls silent. Compton in the 70s and 80s. A violent city haunted by bloodthirsty gangs and the constant wail of police sirens raised a boy named Eric Lynn Wright, born in 1964. No future, no options. Eric dropped out of school. The streets became his classroom, and the only job that could make him quick money: drug trafficking. Eric took this path, but he was different from the others. He didn't plan to die as a nameless gang member. In that criminal world, Eric found a weapon more powerful than guns and bullets: music. With the money flowing from the streets in 1987, Eric founded Ruthless Records. And that was the beginning of a storm that would shake America. In just 1 year, Eric, now known as Eazy-E, assembled a talented team that included Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella. They took on a name that sent shivers down America's spine: NWA, Niggas Wit Attitudes. In 1988, the bomb called Straight Outta Compton exploded. This was no longer music. This was the confession of a generation pushed into darkness. Boys in the Hood became a street anthem. the police turned Eazy-E and his teammates into public enemies of the government. Politicians call them national threats. Newspapers scream scandal. But on the streets, Eazy-E was no longer Eric Wright. He was a symbol of raw truth. Eazy-E, an unknown who transformed into the godfather of gangsta rap. From Compton, Eazy-E rose to become a music mogul running a multi-million-dollar record label. He caught the attention of the FBI and the White House. And then, that's what landed Eazy-E in the federal investigation. The FBI tracks NWA, when rap music was considered a national security threat. In 1988, the album Straight Outta Compton was released and immediately shook the whole country. This was not just a rap album, but a political bomb exposing the dark side of American society. It was a place where black neighborhoods were oppressed by the police, where injustice and racial issues were no longer hidden behind beautiful words. The center of the storm was the song the police ***. In it, NWA did not shy away from or use metaphors, but directly called out the system of power, the American police, with fierce words. For the people of Compton, this was a cry of liberation. But for the government, this was a declaration of war. The blow was so loud that the FBI had to get involved. On August 1, 1989, an official letter from Milt Alaric, assistant director of the FBI, was sent to Priority Records, NWA's music distributor. The letter was harsh. The song was accused of inciting violence against law enforcement and threatening national security. This isn't just a warning. This is an unprecedented milestone. For the first time, a rap song has been flagged as dangerous enough to be subject to federal scrutiny. From that moment on, Eazy-E and the group NWA were in the crosshairs. The shows always have FBI agents or undercover police in the audience. They are ready to film record and intervene at any time. Phone calls and mail are checked. Every call Eazy-E makes and receives may be recorded in confidential files. The FBI investigation files collected every detail from interview statements, tours to financial transactions and music contracts. In the eyes of millions of black fans, Eazy-E was a Compton hero, a voice for a marginalized community. But in the eyes of the FBI, he was an extremist, a tinker who could ignite nationwide riots. And then 3 decades later, when Eazy-E's secret vault was opened, they found thick files marked confidential in red, detailing how the FBI viewed Eazy-E and NWA as a national threat. A rap song led to an FBI investigation, and that's just the beginning. The FBI vault's blackmail files. When glory comes with a price in the dark. Among the thick stacks of documents marked confidential in red is a series of files in particular documenting FBI investigations in the late 1990s. The contents released through the Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) reveal a chilling scenario. Several rappers, including Eric Eazy-E Wright, were threatened with money in exchange for safety. According to FBI sources, the modus operandi was very much like an organized protection scheme. First came the direct threats, then the offer to provide protection, for a hefty price, of course. If they didn't pay, the consequences were dire. If they agreed, they were given temporary peace. But that peace only lasted until a new payment was demanded. The most shocking point is that many reports mention the Jewish Defense League (JDL) as a suspected link to this activity. A 1999 report widely cited by the U.S. media in 2011 even stated clearly in the Washington Post, several rappers, including Eazy-E, have been threatened by the JDL to force them to pay money. Importantly, the FBI investigation lasted from 1996 to 1999, but ended without any criminal charges. There was no strong enough evidence to charge any specific individuals or organizations. So, to this day, these are just files of suspicion, not convictions, not final conclusions. So why is this detail important when it comes to Eazy-E first? It shows that he is not only facing the government FBI in the light, but also facing the danger from the underground forces in the dark. Second, it raises the creepy question, did Eazy-E ever pay for safety for himself and his family? Third, this fact contributes to the conspiracy theories surrounding his sudden death in 1995, as many fans believe that his death was not simply due to illness. The documents in the vault are inconclusive. But the mere fact that Eazy-E's name appeared in the blackmail dossier was enough to shock the public. A legend, a music mogul, turned out to be nothing more than prey in the eyes of hidden hands. And from here, a haunting question arises. Is it true that to have immortal glory, Eazy-E had to pay not only with money, but also with silence, even with his own life? After the dark blackmail files, an incredibly contradictory piece of the puzzle was revealed. Eazy-E was once present at a formal event right at the White House. Mysterious lunch at the White House. When Eazy-E sat next to the U.S. president. In 1991, America witnessed one of the most shocking moments in the history of the intersection of music and politics. On March 18, 1991, the public was shocked to see him walking into a fundraising dinner hosted by President George H.W. Bush. The image was like an inexplicable paradox. How could someone once considered a national security threat walk through the doors of American supreme power? Interestingly, Eazy-E was invited by the White House not as a celebrity, but through a completely different channel: politics. He donated $2,500 to the GOP Inner Circle, a fundraising organization affiliated with the Republican Party. This money earned him a ticket to the dinner with the president. Eazy-E understood the impact of the event. The Compton rapper who had fought the FBI sitting at the White House dinner table was nothing short of a political troll. He showed up in a tailored suit, smiling confidently, enjoying what the press described as one of the most surprising events in American political history in the early 1990s. The event sparked immediate controversy. For hip-hop fans, it was a symbolic victory. It showed that Eazy-E could not only represent Compton, but also make his way into the center of national power. He had broken down the invisible wall that separated outsiders from the political elite. But for conservative media, this was a hard blow to swallow. They were quick to criticize the fact that a rapper with a street past and dissident lyrics was being placed on the same level as the president. Some commentators even called it a stain on the fundraiser. What is remarkable is that Eazy-E did not see this as just a performance or a game. The White House event reflected a larger ambition. He wanted to take his image beyond the music scene to prove that a rapper could still enter spaces of power that no one expected. Many cultural analysts believe that this moment marked the beginning of hip-hop's transition from the ghetto to becoming a force in American politics and culture. Soon, Eazy-E himself used the experience to poke fun at his rivals. In an interview, he said with amusement that being in the White House was easier than walking down the streets of Compton. It wasn't just a joke, it was an indication that he had reached a level few could have imagined. But just 4 years after the shocking lunch tragedy struck Eazy. Controversial death. 1995, when the godfather of gangsta rap fell down for 10 days. On March 16, 1995, the hip-hop world was shocked. Eazy-E came out in public to announce that he had contracted HIV/AIDS. The announcement not only stunned fans, but also created an earthquake in American culture. At the time, HIV/AIDS was still considered a stigmatized disease, and few stars publicly acknowledged it. Attorney Ron Sweeney read an open letter on behalf of Eazy-E, considered the legend's final letter. In it he wrote, "I want people to know the truth about me. I have AIDS. I have had dozens of girlfriends in my life, probably more than anyone can count. And now I have to say that I was wrong. I am sorry for what happened." Eazy-E admitted to his illness, but instead of just talking about himself, he turned it into a warning. AIDS doesn't just affect gay people like a lot of people think. It can happen to anyone. Even me, Eazy-E, the guy who thought he was invulnerable. This is a dangerous disease, and I want the community to learn from me. Those words, when they rang out, silenced the entire hip-hop world. A boss who had sat across from the FBI, who had challenged the entire American power system, now admitted that he was powerless against a disease. For the community, it was like a wake-up call. But at the same time, it also sowed utter confusion. Why did Eazy-E collapse so quickly? 10 fateful days. Eazy-E was hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on February 24, 1995, with respiratory symptoms. Initially, many thought he had asthma or pneumonia, but tests quickly confirmed HIV had progressed to late-stage AIDS, and his immune system was nearly destroyed. Less than 10 days after the public letter on March 26, 1995, Eazy-E passed away at the age of 31. Doctors explained that the late diagnosis left Eazy-E with no chance of treatment. However, in the eyes of friends and family, the unimaginably rapid progression raised a series of doubts. How could a person who was still performing normally on stage a few months ago pass away less than 2 weeks after announcing the disease? A series of conspiracy theories broke out. Eazy-E's death did not close the story, but rather opened a maze of theories. For nearly 3 decades, conversations in hip-hop, the press, and the mainstream media have revolved around the question: did Eazy-E really die of AIDS, or was there an invisible hand behind it? One popular theory stems from a 2003 comment by Suge Knight on Jimmy Kimmel Live, where Knight half-jokingly mentioned a new way to kill people by injecting them with HIV through a needle. The comment immediately sparked a wave of discussion, with many seeing it as a slip of the tongue that revealed a dark secret behind the music industry. Not only that, there is also speculation about a power grab in the music and business industry. Eazy-E with Ruthless Records held huge control and profits. After his death, this power quickly changed hands, leading to more suspicions that the death was not simply a biological accident. Another perspective points to the political and economic connections that Eazy-E has had. From being tracked by the FBI for the police, to a shocking lunch at the White House with President George H.W. Bush, to shady financial records. All of this has led many to believe that he has become a threat to forces that want everything to remain in the dark. Although there has never been any legal evidence to confirm these theories, one thing that has left the public uneasy is the speed of his passing. Just 10 days after publicly announcing his illness, Eazy-E collapsed. For many, it was too great a coincidence to accept. And so for nearly 30 years, the question has echoed in the hip-hop community: did Eazy-E fall from illness, or from a death sentence arranged in the dark? If Eazy-E's death was shocking enough, what happened right before his final moments was even more shocking. Last-minute wedding and Ruthless Records dispute. In March 1995 at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles, Eazy-E lay in a hospital bed, his body weak, gasping for breath. Inside the hospital room, a completely different event was taking place: a surprise wedding in his dying moments. On March 14, 1995, just 2 days before going public with his illness, Eazy-E officially married his longtime girlfriend Tamika Woods, who was just over 20 years old. No fancy wedding dress, no fancy ceremony, just a few close witnesses, a priest, and the steady hum of medical machines. But that simple moment became the turning point that changed the fate of an entire music empire. With just a few strokes of the pen, Tamika Woods became his legal wife and official heir. That meant that Ruthless Records, the music empire Eazy-E had worked so hard to build, changed hands immediately. In the eyes of many, this was Eazy-E's way of ensuring that his wife and children would be protected after his death. But to many outsiders, it was like an unexpected move. It put all of his power and assets in the hands of one person in just a few short hours. Controversial letters and contracts. After Eazy-E's death, a series of controversies broke out. Some members of Wright's family and former partners claimed that he was no longer sober and clear-headed enough to make important decisions such as marriage and property settlement. Some even asserted that the wedding was just a legal move to legitimize control of Ruthless. Never-before-seen documents, letters, and contracts began to leak out, raising the question, was this really Eazy-E's last will? Or was it just a carefully calculated plot in his final hours? The legal battle drags on. In the immediate aftermath of the funeral, Ruthless Records became more than just a label, it became a legal battleground. The Wright family and some former partners wanted to challenge the inheritance, while Tamika Woods firmly maintained that she was merely carrying out her husband's final wishes. The battle dragged on for years with lawsuits, hearings, and recriminations. Despite the heated debate, Tamika ultimately retained control of Ruthless Records, becoming CEO and continuing to run the company. The 1990s continued to be a boom period for hip-hop, but Ruthless's reign of glory was over. The posthumous release of Starter 8 off the streets of Motherfucking Compton, 1996, was the label's final blow. Despite Tamika's efforts to keep the company going, Ruthless slowly faded into oblivion amid the power of major labels like Death Row and Aftermath by Dr. Dre. Many young artists were no longer interested in signing with Ruthless, partly because of the large shadow of Eazy-E, also because of concerns about the ongoing legal disputes. More than 2 decades later, Ruthless Records still exists, but it is no longer the empire that once shocked the United States. Tamika Woods still retains control of the label, focusing on exploiting old music and preserving Eazy-E's legacy. But the story never ended. In the public eye, this remains one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Eazy-E's death. Did he really want to hand Ruthless back to Tamika? Or was he forced to sign when he could no longer resist? Was the wedding a final act of love, or a calculated legal move? A wedding in the dying hour, and with just one signature, an entire music empire changed hands. There was another secret buried not in his political record, but in his music. Raps no one had ever heard, beats that could change the history of hip-hop if they were released. Buried songs, music secrets, after 30 years. In 1996, a year after Eazy-E's death, the album Starter 8 Off the Streets of Motherfucking Compton was released. It was considered his musical last words, a collection of his last remaining recordings. But the industry soon realized that the album could not possibly represent the massive amount of work Eazy-E had been working on before his death. Eazy was famous for never stopping recording. Even as his health deteriorated, he continued to spend time in the studio, leaving behind dozens of demos, verses, and hooks. Close collaborators from DJ Yella to MC Ren have hinted that Eazy has a lot more to release. So the posthumous album is just the tip of the iceberg. For years, rumors of Eazy's musical treasure trove have circulated among fans. There have been stories of unfinished demos, collaborations with other artists, and even songs recorded during NWA's breakup. Some sources have even claimed that there were tracks he recorded with Dr. Dre or Ice Cube in an effort to mend differences that were never released. This has fans wondering, was someone intentionally keeping these tracks secret? Could their release change the way people view hip-hop history and Eazy-E's place in American culture? From street gangster to music mogul, Eazy-E has written the most incredible story in hip-hop. But that halo does not only come with fame and money. Behind the spotlight is a chaotic and controversial personal life. A life that seemed to be closed, but in fact only opened more secret doors that made the whole world shudder. Eazy-E, gangster, huge fortune, chaotic personal life. With his business acumen, Eazy was not only an artist, but also a true businessman. Ruthless Records quickly became a multi-million-dollar label, signing many artists and bringing in huge profits. By the early 1990s, Eazy-E was worth an estimated $8.10 million, a huge sum for a rapper at the time. He was known as the Compton King, turning gangland material into a money-making music empire. His music made him a legend, but it was his troubled love life that turned Eazy into an addictive name for the American media in the 90s. According to multiple sources, Eazy fathered at least 11 children with 8 different women by the time he was in his early 30s, making him one of the most prolific rappers in the business. The relationships were mostly short-lived, starting with a night of partying and ending in silence. But the result of those short nights was that the children named Wright grew up surrounded by their father's fame and scandal. Several women have said that for Eazy, love affairs were just part of the playboy gangster lifestyle. He was generous with gifts and money, but rarely committed to long-term relationships. This made Eazy's private life a never-ending game of chess. Even when he died, his family was still arguing about who was his legitimate son and who should inherit. 11 children, each with a mother, grew up in different circumstances. Lil Eazy-E Eric Wright Jr., the eldest son, later followed his father into rap. Young Eazy. Another son has publicly hinted that his father did not die of AIDS, but was murdered. There are also many other daughters and sons, each carrying a part of their father's legacy, but rarely united as a unified family. If Eazy's love life was messy, his professional life was no less turbulent. Conflict with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre friends become enemies. In 1988, when Straight Outta Compton was released, NWA, the rap group consisting of Eazy-E, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, MC Ren, and DJ Yella, took America by storm. The album not only sold millions of copies, but also made Compton famous around the world. They became the voice of poor neighborhoods against the police and oppression. But behind the spotlight, the seeds of discord soon appeared. Key lyricist Ice Cube began to feel he was not being paid fairly. Meanwhile, Eazy-E and manager Jerry Heller were accused of withholding much of the profits, leaving Cube disgruntled. In 1989, Ice Cube left NW, starting a civil war in hip-hop. 2 years later, Cube released No Vaseline, which is considered one of the most brutal diss tracks in history. In it, Cube directly attacked Eazy, and the group accusing Eazy of being a little puppet manipulated by Jerry Heller, a white man. "You let a Jew break up my crew." Cube threw out the accusation that Eazy let Heller break up the brothers. The song not only damaged Eazy's reputation, but also put an end to any hope of a reunion. From best friend, Cube became public enemy number one. If Cube's departure was just a crack doctor, Dre's departure in 1991 was the real earthquake. Dre, dissatisfied with his contract with Ruthless, teamed up with Suge Knight to form Death Row Records. The birth of Death Row not only deprived Eazy of his most talented producer, but also opened up a new force to directly confront Ruthless. Dre and Eazy went from studio brothers to opposite sides. The war escalated when Dr. Dre released the song Dre Day 1992 with Snoop Dogg. The video featured a character who was clearly a parody of Eazy-E, Short Greedy, and being manipulated like a puppet. The whole rap world saw the Compton boss turned into a laughing stock. For Eazy, this was a painful blow, not only losing his teammates, but also being made into a public outcast. Eazy-E refused to be silenced. He released Real Motherfuckin' G's, a fierce counterattack aimed directly at Dre and Snoop. In the video, Eazy appears alongside real gangsters from Compton, asserting that he is the real gangsta, while Dre is just a studio gangster, someone who pretends to be tough in music but is weak in real life. The song quickly became a hit, helping Eazy regain some of his dignity. But the conflict now went beyond music. It turned into a personal war where brotherly love dissolved into hatred. Behind the scenes, violence and contracts. What the public saw was only part of it. Behind the scenes, notorious Death Row boss Suge Knight allegedly threatened and violently forced Dre to leave Ruthless. Eazy was so angry that he once said he would sue Dre for breach of contract. It was rumored that Suge kidnapped and threatened Eazy's lawyer to sever the relationship. This is no longer music. This is a power struggle with money contracts and real-life violence. It was a personal tragedy for Eazy, but it was also an important part of hip-hop history, because these battles shaped the culture of rap in the 90s, where music was a weapon, and friendships could turn to hatred for money and power. After years of a cold war of rap diss and media attacks in early 1995, when news of Eazy-E's hospitalization for respiratory failure spread, Ice Cube decided to go to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles, where Eazy was being treated. In Cube's memory, it was a strange atmosphere. No loud music, no friends laughing, just a skinny, weak Eazy-E on the hospital bed. Cube told the press, "I went to see him. We talked. No complaints, no arguments, just a meeting between people who used to be brothers." Eazy-E, once proud, now lay motionless. But in that moment, Cube believed there was an unspoken forgiveness between them. Ironically, there were signs of reconciliation before Eazy died in 1995. Dr. Dre once expressed a desire to meet Eazy again to talk like men. Ice Cube later admitted that despite the conflict, Eazy was the foundation of all of us. But it was too late. Eazy's death ended any chance of a reunion. The wounds of the past became historical legacies, a reminder that NWA was once brothers, but also torn apart by hatred. Yet Eazy's legacy began to outlive his presence. The legacy of Eazy-E, the immortal ghost of hip-hop. More than music, Eazy turns rap into a cultural weapon. Eazy-E isn't remembered for being the fastest rapper or the master lyricist. His strength was his vision. Without Eazy, the world would not have known Straight Outta Compton and F the Police would not have become the anthem of downtrodden neighborhoods. He transformed rap from entertainment into a political weapon, a tool of protest. That's why many scholars call Eazy the bridge between the streets and politics. No rapper before him had entered the White House like he did, even with a $2.500 fundraising ticket. From ruthless to death row, a rebound beyond control. Ironically, it was Eazy through Ruthless Records who indirectly gave birth to Death Row, the label that would become a major rival to West Coast rap. Suge Knight and Dr. Dre only got off the ground after they cut ties with Eazy. In other words, Eazy's legacy lies not just in what he created, but also in what he forced others to do to escape him. Without Eazy, there would be no Dre from The Chronic. Without Eazy, Ice Cube probably wouldn't have released No Vaseline, the game-changing diss track. Fashion style and hip-hop DNA. Eazy's baseball cap, sunglasses, and streetwear jacket became the unofficial uniform of gangster rap, an image that has been replicated by countless rappers since from the West Coast to the East Coast. Eazy was more than just music, he was a visual icon. Many young fans today may not have heard of Eazy Does It, but as soon as they see his style, they know Eazy-E. Are you a fan of Eazy-E? What do you think about his life and secrets? Comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the best videos on the channel.